The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like those other energy drinks have. They also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. Dubby's products are made in the USA in an FDA-inspected facility that strictly adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. All of the flavors are unique and custom-made by Dubby, and you'll never taste our taste anywhere else. The best part about it is they're affordable. Dubby's drinks come out to about $1 per drink, much cheaper than Starbucks or any of those canned energy drinks. To learn more, visit dubby.gg.com/discount/MRTipton33 and place your order today. Use promo code MrTipton33 and save today. Dubby Energy, be better. What's going on, everybody? I want to tell you about my new friends over at Cleverman. Visit them online at becleverman.com. What they gave me was the energizing face and beard scrub along with the Cleverman face scrubber. And trust me when I say this, the energizing face and beard scrub smells amazing. Combining it with the face scrubber, making sure that your boy was looking as good and sexy as possible, opened up a whole different sensation in my face that I haven't ever felt before. I felt so clean, so fresh, and so clean, like Outkast said, and it helped me feel like I was ready for my day. Make sure you visit them online at becleverman.com and follow them on Instagram at clevermannyc. The link is up in my bio if you want to check out all the amazing products they have. Visit them online, becleverman.com. It is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, hanging out with you here on a Tuesday morning. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Shout out to Lisa Reynoso, Dennison9819, and Amber Banda 915 who have tuned in over on Instagram. I see my dude Jesse Carter tuned in right now over on the Facebook page. Shout out to everyone that is tuned in right now on the show. Remember, we are brought to you by RevAutoCarCare.com. Check out RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33 and save on your car care needs. We're all about personal care, car care, all that stuff. It's what we do here on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. I see my girl Mireya Reyes tuning in over on Instagram as well. Hope that you are having a fantastic day so far. I'm hoping that noise I heard was either my kids or something else, but that did not sound like my kids. So now, we had the ghost a couple of weeks ago. Maybe this is just a new noise that's going to be happening randomly throughout the show. That did not sound like children. And I have a door shut now because I didn't want to wake them up because I have this whole thing kind of soundproofed. You can see behind me, like that's a curtain with soundproofing behind it right next to me. More soundproofing. There's a lot of soundproofing in this room. So maybe it's a ghost. If I die on the show, maybe that equals ratings. Who knows? But once again, thank you all so much for tuning into today's show. What a way to start the show. That was a weird noise, guys. Like it really has me rattled right now. That was a weird noise. House is making weird noises now. I don't like it. Maybe I got to calm down on all the drug abuse. What? Nonetheless, we're doing all right. We're having ourselves a good time. We are surviving, advancing, and surviving. That's what we're doing right now. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that we had kind of... It is, dude, trust me, it is scary. like I'm talking loud enough to where I shouldn't have been able to hear that. It sounded like scratching on the wall, and I'd be like, okay, maybe it was the cat or something like that, but it didn't come from like low. It came from like the top of the door, if that makes sense. Or maybe it's just my ears playing tricks on me or something. It was a cat. We're just gonna say it was a cat. It was a cat. The cat was scratching the top of the door. I have a lion as a pet cat. That's what I have, is a lion as my pet. Augustine saying it's a xenomorph, alien Earth coming soon. I say that about my dog. I say that my dog's a skinwalker because there were times that he would like open the door by himself. He's a weenie dog. He's not big enough to open a door by himself, but he would open up some of these doors by himself. So maybe it's my skinwalking weenie dog is still in his bed, zipped up. This is how good of a dad I am. I don't let the dog out, and the dog is conditioned to not like use the bathroom or anything like that until the boys wake up, and then I let him out. Because if I let him out, he's going to be running around the whole time, wake up the boys, and now they're cranky because they got woken up by a dog jumping around everywhere. Our guy Tommy Canazza saying good morning, Tip. Good morning to you, Tommy. Hope that you were having yourself a fantastic day. We've got aliens, ghosts, skinwalking dogs, all kinds of stuff that we started today's show with. Well, thank you all for being a part of what it is that we're doing here at the Tipping Point with my tip. Now, Augustine, I'm glad that you're here because we spoke briefly about this yesterday, and it was about the WNBA, how, they want money, but should they get that money, etc. Well, I want to give a shout out to Zunias, who's tuned in right now over on Instagram as well. Augustine saying it's just like women wanting to get paid the same. I don't think it's necessarily that they want to get paid the same, but like I would ask you this question, right? We keep hearing that the WNBA is losing money. The WNBA is losing money, losing money, losing money. If that's the case, like genuinely, if that was the case, why are they expanding right now? Why are they going to have 6 new expansion teams by 2030? Right? Like they're going to introduce a new team. They have a new team this year that Kayla Thornton from El Paso is playing on. Why, if they were losing money that way, why are they expanding? Why is the league growing? And it's because it's not losing money the way that you want it to lose. And I had to think about this going back to like the NBA, because we're getting these numbers from the NBA, right? Like the NBA is telling us that the WNBA is losing money. Let's not forget that the NBA had 2 lockouts, 1999, 2011, 2 lockouts, because they were trying to convince us that teams were losing more money than they were making. So they weren't going to be able to pay the players the way that they're paying the players. And then think about this on its own, not with the NBA, but the WNBA now has a $2 billion TV deal. The $2 billion TV deal, right? Now, whenever you look at revenue share, and this is kind of what the WNBA is going after, they want a little bit of revenue share. The NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL, they have a 50-50 split, right? The one that you have to look at is combat sports. And the worst of the combat sports is the UFC right now. And the UFC has an 18% revenue share with their competitors. Now, obviously, there's a lot of UFC fighters, things of that nature, right? And the revenue is always in flux when it comes to the UFC. The WNBA players right now, out of that $2 billion deal, are getting 9%. I'm not saying that they should get all the way up to 50% because they haven't generated the revenue that the NBA does, that Major League Baseball does, that the NFL does. But we have to all agree that the WNBA ratings are on the come up. They're on the way up. They are. And 9% revenue share out of $2 billion, whenever the UFC is constantly looked at as like the worst possible, you're making 50% of what UFC is making as far as revenue share goes. And the UFC wanted to unionize to go up against Dana White and all the stuff that he's doing. So maybe not 50%, but hell, get them to 20, right? 20 would be okay. I think that would be better. You got to lay down the groundwork and stuff like that. It's a $2 billion TV deal. The players should get something out of that. I'm going to look at the comments here that Augustine put up saying, well, 6 knew it's streams of possible income, but it has to be in place that have a pool for women's sports. Amber Bonda saying maybe they should get a Netflix show like the DC cheerleaders who got a 400% pay increase. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like I really wouldn't be surprised. Like I feel like, Amber, that's a great idea. I feel like if the WNBA did like a Caitlin Clark reality show, like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese for a year, that would be something. Like even if they followed around Paige Beckers, that would be something. And it would be generating storylines, right? It's kind of like what F1's done. Like F1's still not a huge sport in the United States, but they have that show on Netflix. They were able to come up with the movie and stuff like that. They're making people care about the product. Maybe that's what the WNBA needs to do. But like, again, like if you're saying the league is losing money, I don't see how you're expanding the league. And Augustine was saying, okay, you got to go into 6 cities where it has a pool for women's sports. They're going to Cleveland, Philadelphia, Detroit, Toronto, and Portland. They just got Golden State right now. So those are the 6 teams by 2025 or by 2030 that they're going to have, right? Those are major markets, man. Like those are major areas for the WNBA. I think that they'll be fine, right? Like it's obviously women's sports isn't going to get the buy-in that male-dominated sports are going to get, right? Like it's just not going to be that way. But you cannot sit there and say, okay, well, if they're expanding, they're clearly losing money after money after money. If they were losing money like they did at the very beginning of the WNBA, they would be retracting teams. That's why we don't have the Houston Comets anymore. That's why we don't have a lot of the teams that started the WNBA. But now they're expanding because it's become a viable product. Maybe not to you because you're not watching, but there are people out there watching. Thus the reason why they got a $2 billion TV deal outside of what they got from the NBA. It's going to be interesting to watch, like to see if they can continue this momentum, because I think right now would be a terrible time for them to strike. Not just for them, but for the owners, for all of that stuff. It would be a terrible time for them to strike. So I don't want to see the WNBA striking at all. Like I want to see them continue to play because they're the hottest they've ever been. If you strike right now, you're just pouring water on that, and you're going to have to rebuild from somewhere. The NBA had a huge comeback with their strike because they had, or with their holdout rather, their lockout rather, they had a huge comeback with that because they got to play the majority of the season. LeBron James was in Miami. They had a bunch of stuff like that. In 1999, you had the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq and stuff like that you could fall back on. If you're the WNBA, you got Caitlin Clark, you got Angel Reese, but that's not enough to really bring an audience back if you alienate them by striking. So I think it would be a horrible idea for the ownership and for the players if they were to go off on a strike. But we shall see. Shout out to Leighton Viamu. I probably said that name wrong, but shout out to you, Nick Stone, and it's solo _77 for tuning in over on Instagram. I got my guy Ray Jackson tuning in right now over on the Facebook page. Ashley Candelaria from Talking About It with Ashley says the fact that some of these women are so against CC and AR and always throw them under the bus or try to say big things were happening before them are just haters, and it's going to make it difficult. I agree with that. I've got 8 sisters, y'all. 8 sisters that I grew up with, 12 sisters in total, which is an insane number to think about, right? 8 sisters from my adopted family, 12 sisters in total whenever you add my biological family. And I've said this a million times. No one hates on a woman more than other women. And it's just that way. It's just that way. Augustine going on to say, and so many good players in the NBA, WNBA, like Kelsey Plum, that they could focus on. And Kelsey is an absolute princess. That feels like a bias right there. There's a lot of good storylines in the WNBA, right? Like the Kayla Thornton storyline is great. The Sabrina Ionescu, the Paige Becker, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, like those are some great storylines that I think people can get behind. And it would be fun. Like for me, a Netflix series like that, like Amber Bonda hitting the nail on the head right there, saying like maybe they do a Netflix series or something like that, like a show like that might get people interested, and then they can get some more revenue share off of that. But I think that that's going to be an avenue that the WNBA is going to have to take on their own. I just like I said, it was something that kind of was on my head yesterday, or in my head yesterday, whenever we were talking about um the WNBA wanting revenue share and stuff like that. Like I agree. I didn't realize until I did research that they're making 9% of the revenue, which means out of that $2 billion, they made 9% off of it. So the players themselves all have to share less than 200 million, which once again sounds like an insane number. But whenever you have to divvy it up on that and compare it to others, it should be roughly around 20%. Like it should be there. The league is on the way up. It should grow to at least that. And this is the thing that I had to remind myself of, right? I was at iHeartMedia talking about my friend Shanae Agumake fighting for the Players Association so that pregnant WNBA players can get maternity leave. They didn't even have maternity leave, so that they didn't have to share 5 people to a hotel room, so they can each have an individual hotel room. It's a startup league. It's stuff like that. But imagine sharing as a professional 5 people to a hotel room. It's just insane. And the Chicago Sky, a WNBA professional team, doesn't even have their own practice facility. They practice at a rec center in the city of Chicago, which means if you're going in to like do whatever aerobics you're doing, you can also catch the practice of the WNBA team at the rec center. I ventured, like all of us would agree, they deserve better than that, right? So finally getting the ability to be in a separate hotel room where you don't have to share with 5 people is fine. Finally being able to have maternity leave is great. Let's start getting them a little something different. A little something different. Augustine saying, and should you charge the WNBA to a soap opera too? I don't know what you're asking there, Augustine. Yes, great storylines, and the WNBA doesn't care. Augustine saying, deserve, that's a loaded word. If you're a professional athlete, you deserve the best that the league can give you. If the league just signed a $2 billion TV deal, they ought to be able to do something. They ought to be able to do something. You're going out there, you're working, you're doing your job. Now it's time for the league to start taking care of them. There is no reason, none, that a professional team at any level should be holding its practice at a rec center. Like that's insane to me, man. Spent more time on that than I thought we were going to spend. Great conversation, guys. I appreciate it. Getting through the dog days of summer. I appreciate that conversation. Obviously, we're going to see how this all plays out. Amber Bonda saying 20% seems reasonable. It really does. But like, again, I'm not talking about them having a full 50-50 split, revenue split, because you have to have something in the league. The league has to have more to grow to get to the level that the NBA and all them are at. But you just signed a $2 billion deal. Maybe the Players Association can clear a Netflix show on their own and just keep that money all to themselves. Maybe they can do something like that. Augustine asking, what is the league expenses? Does that $2 billion cover all expenses and losses incurred? What is the P&L? We're going to have to look into that. I don't have all that off the top of my head, but let's see. Let's see. Going over to the other screen. And again, you also have to take whatever the P&L is for the WNBA with a grain of salt from what the report is from the NBA, right? Because again, we're talking about the NBA. They went on strike twice in the last 30 years, 25 years, telling us that NBA teams weren't making money. Now let's look at how much NBA teams are making, right? Like they're clearly making money. You mean to tell me that the NBA teams, that the NBA of the 1990s with Michael Jordan wasn't making money? Really? The NBA of the 1990s with Michael Jordan at the helm wasn't making money? Come on now. They expanded the game globally, internationally. It was the first international, real American sport internationally done. And they're going to try to say that they weren't making money. Then in the 2010s, being led by LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, saying that they didn't make money, forgetting the fact that the NBA had a guy that was 7'6" named Yao Ming and got billions of dollars from the Chinese investment. Billions of dollars from China. And then they tried to tell us that the league made no money. So whatever the P&L is that the NBA discloses, I would take that with a grain of salt. I'm getting right now that the WNBA was reported to have lost $50 million in the 2024 season. They lost $10 million in 2023. So that's that, right? Like, again, $50 million, $2 billion over 10 years is going to cover that $50 billion or $50 million rather. Augustine's saying, look at the profit and loss for the NBA over the last 10 years. What is the NBA's P&L? And of course, this is a real quick turnaround. The NBA on average generated a total of $11.34 billion in revenue in the 2023-2024 season. No. It lost $10 million, Augustine. Lost $10 million in 2023, and somehow last year lost $50 million, which is crazy to me to think about. How did you have the best season you possibly could have had? This is a real quick search, so I'm not going to say this is the end-all, be-all. But there's no way to me that you can say we had the best season we've ever had ratings-wise, merch-wise, ticket sales-wise, and lost more money, 5 times more money than we did the year before. Like, that's a weird one to me. So I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more thoroughly. Ashley Candelaria asking, did NBA players make money off playing, or was it more sponsorships before the strikes? It was more than likely off of playing, but you also have to remember, like the early 2000s or the late 90s and stuff like that, players now are making more money than Jordan made in his entire career in like one season. So the money wasn't there as much as it was. Like, not everyone was Jordan, right? So that right there is going to be a little hard to really describe. But again, like, sponsorships weren't what sponsorships are now, right? Like, now everyone's got a shoe deal. Now everyone's got an NIL deal. They get money off the video games. They get money off of like all these other avenues, social media and things like that you can make money off of, that players in the 90s and early 2000s weren't able to make money off of. So it's, again, like they more than likely made more money off their contract, and I would guarantee that players now in the NBA are definitely making more money off their contract than they are from any outside influence, unless you're DeJounte Porter, Malik Beasley, Terry Rozier, who are now implicated in gambling issues, point shaving in the NBA and things like that. So for me, yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how this all plays out. How this all plays out with the WNBA. I did want to really quickly talk about the NFL Players Association. Again, like I made the joke yesterday. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on with the NFL Players Association. They had Lloyd Howell step away from his position. They had Treader step away from his position. So they lost the top two guys in the NFL Players Association. And it turns out, according to Pablo Torre Finds Out, which is a great podcast by Meadowlark Media, Pablo Torre, a great journalist, that Lloyd Howell, was using NFL Players Association funds to go to strip clubs and to get a $700 car service from an airport. This is what he did. He goes from the airport directly to a strip club in Miami, has the car wait for him for a few hours, and then takes the car to his hotel. The car still had his suitcase in it. Whatever was going on at the strip club in Miami was so important that he racked up a $700 car tab to go a grand total of 5 miles. And then charged that, expensed it to the NFL Players Association. Oh man, that's like you can't write that type of stuff. Expensed going to the strip club and his car service to the NFL Players Association. Man. I'm all about having a good time. I really am. But you also got to be smart about the way that you're having a good time, right? Like you gotta, you can't, you're making enough money off the Players Association as like the president of the Players Association that you would be able to pay to go to the strip club by yourself, right? Like that should be something that comes out of your pocket. You should be able to do that all by yourself. But instead you expense it. You put it on an expense report. Now, I'm wondering how that looks, right? Like you swipe the credit card at the strip club, get the cash advance or whatever you got to do in order to make sure you're doing all that stuff. Tommy Canazzo saying, I'm sure NFL player business is handled in strip clubs. That would be great. Could you imagine the union meeting is at Tootsie's in Miami? Every year we just meet up at the 76,000 square foot warehouse, the biggest strip club in the world. That's what Tootsie's brands itself as, the biggest strip club in the world. And all of their meetings are held there. I just love the fact. I love the fact that this is a story that comes out. And then it turns out that he has to resign from his part-time consulting job with the Carlyle Group, one of the select groups of league-approved firms seeking minority ownership in NFL franchises. This dude just ruined his entire career. You talk about that CEO, right? The CEO that was caught at the Coldplay concert with the woman that was also married. I've been seeing all these things. Oh my God. I can't believe this guy would do that to his wife. She was also married, guys. She did that to her husband. How come we're not out here hating on her? You should hate on both of them. Equal opportunity hater. That's what we're doing. But I could just imagine, right? Like you lost your position as the president of the NFL Players Association. You have to resign from your position with the Carlyle Group where you're trying to help minority people get ownership in NFL franchises. All because you fly into Miami, you get a limo service to drop you off at the strip club because what you want to do is have yourself a little bit of fun. And the amount of time that you spent at the strip club was just the tip of it all.
I just want to put the tip in.
It's time for
Just a Tip.
That would make me uncomfortable.
Promise that it ain't too much, but just enough. Just a tip. Just a tip.
Just the tip? Just the tip.
Just the Tip is brought to you by our friends over at www.myhappynuts.com. Check them out today, www.myhappynuts.com. Whether you're at a Coldplay concert or whether you're at a strip club using money from your Players Association that you shouldn't be using, you want to make sure that you're feeling as good as you possibly can from your pits to your tip. And www.myhappynuts.com has got you covered. They've got the whole body deodorant, the anti-chafe stick, they've got the comfort cream, and of course the bulber to make sure that whenever you finally get lucky with your side piece or that stripper whom you think is in love with you, that everything is looking as good as it possibly can. www.myhappynuts.com. Use promo code Mike Tipton at checkout and save on all of your male grooming needs. I don't think My Happy Nuts is going to like that read. But I think it was a good read. I thought it was pretty solid. All right. So we've had a little bit of fun talking about profits and losses in the WNBA, all the fun stuff that's going on. But this is our last week, guys, our last week of breaking down teams. Conference by conference, division by division. We've finally done it all the way from the AFC East till last week. We finished with the NFC North, and today we finally finish everything out with the NFC East. The surprise team of the NFC East, the Washington Commanders, had themselves one hell of a busy offseason. Are they going to change the name back? Is the president going to force them to change the name back? Who knows? Who'd they lose? They lost Jonathan Allen, a defensive tackle. He goes to the Minnesota Vikings on a 3-year, $51 million deal. They lose a wide receiver who I thought was pretty good, Naomi Brown. They lose Jeremy Chin. Dante Fowler goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Cornelius Lucas, and then a bunch of just filler guys, right? Like not a whole bunch of guys. I think all total they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys off of their roster. But they had themselves a very busy offseason. They give a 3-year, $45 million deal to defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw from the New York Jets. They bring him in. They bring in Von Miller. They bring in Jonathan Jones. They bring in Matt Gay, Dietrich Weiss, Will Harris, Jake Martin, Josh Johnson, a backup quarterback who somehow has still been in the NFL as long as he has, Nate Herbig, Eddie Goldman, and Foster Sarrell. They re-sign Marcus Mariota, Noah Brown, Nick Bellior, Clelin Ferrell, Noah Igbiani, Trenton Scott, Jalen Holmes, Jeremy Nichols, Michael Dieter, Sheldon Day, KJ Osborne, and Kayvon Seymour. So they re-signed and brought in a ton of guys. Their biggest issue was defense, that run defense. We saw how the Philadelphia Eagles, like a hot knife through butter, just cut through them in the NFC Championship game. That was the Philadelphia Eagles in a nutshell. That's what that team did. They just cut through teams left and right. What did Washington do in the draft, right? Like we can tell they have a pretty decent offensive line. So they've got to make sure they're protecting Jaden Daniels. They bring in Deebo Samuel. So they've got themselves another wide receiver. They still got Terry McLaurin. They've got a pretty decent running game with Brian Robinson and them boys. What did they do in the NFL draft? Well, with the 29th draft pick, they bring in Josh Connerly, an offensive tackle from Oregon, one of the higher-rated offensive linemen in this year's NFL draft. Washington brings him in. They bring in Trey Amos, a cornerback out of Ole Miss. They bring in Jalen Lane, a wide receiver. In the 6th round, they bring in Kane Medrano, a linebacker, and then Ja'Cory Crockett-Merritt, a running back out of Arizona. They only had 5 total draft picks. 1 in the first round, 1 in the second round, a 4th rounder, a 6th rounder, and a 7th round draft pick. But they helped out their offensive line, bringing in Josh Connerly. So now, let's look at what the Washington Commanders' schedule is going to look like. We will share the screen as we always do here, so that way we can all look at it. Week 1 at the New York Giants, we're going to call that a win because it's the New York Giants and they are the hottest of dog water. Absolute garbage. At the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to call that a loss for the Washington Commanders. You got to remember, I don't think Washington is going to get as lucky as they did last year. And they have a second place division schedule. So we've got to see how difficult this is going to be. You're 1-1 so far. 2-1, beating the Las Vegas Raiders. 3-1, beating the Atlanta Falcons. 3-2, losing to the LA Chargers. Damn, this is going to be a good game. The Chicago Bears, that's going to be a really good game. I'm going to call you 4-2, beating the Chicago Bears. We got to remember they beat the Bears last year off of a Hail Mary. 4-2. You go into AT&T Stadium against the Dallas Cowboys. You are 4-3 through week 7. The Kansas City Chiefs, 4-8 through week 8. The Seattle Seahawks, 4-5 against Seattle, 4-6 against Detroit. You beat the Miami Dolphins, you're 5-6. The Denver Broncos are a really good team. I think you're 5-7. Minnesota's also a pretty good team. You're 5-8. 6-8, beating the New York Giants. You lose against the Philadelphia Eagles because that's a really good team. 6-9. The Dallas Cowboys, you might split with them. So we'll call it 7-9 so far. And then you lose against Philadelphia. I can see this team, this Washington Commanders team, best case scenario, a 9-win team here. A 9-win team. Tommy Canazza saying he doesn't think they beat the Falcons. There's I also kind of agree with that. Like, I don't see them beating the Falcons. I can see them splitting with the Cowboys, Tommy. I know you're upset at that, but I can see them splitting with the Dallas Cowboys because it's what the Dallas Cowboys do. Worst case scenario, we're looking at a 7-8 win team. Best case scenario, 9 wins, 10 wins, maybe. That's not a good look for them. Definitely not a good look for them. And again, like it's not a slight on them. It's not me hating on them because I'm some sort of hating ass hater or anything like that. I'm just calling it what it is. I don't think that the Washington Commanders are going to be as good as they were last season. I feel like they caught lightning in a bottle and they were very lucky last season. Going back now, we go to the New York Giants. We're just knocking this team out because they're the New York Giants. They didn't lose a lot. It was basically a bunch of depth guys is who they lost. Who'd they bring in? They bring in Paulson Adebo, a cornerback from the New Orleans Saints. Javion Holland, a free safety. They're helping out that defense. They re-signed Darius Slayton. They bring in Russell Wilson. They bring in Jameis Winston. They bring in Chauncey Golston from the Dallas Cowboys. Chris Board, they bring him in. Zach Pascal, they bring him in. They bring in a lot of guys to the New York Giants. In the draft, the Giants had themselves a pretty good draft. I will say this. Like, I think their defensive line is going to be good. Tommy Canazza saying, I'm a hating ass hater. No, I get you, dude. I am with you on that one. I'm trying to be as straight down the middle as I possibly can. Trying to be that guy. The Giants in the draft, they spend the number 3 overall pick on Abdul Carter. A lot of people thought that they were going to go with Shedeur Sanders. They go with Abdul Carter, arguably the best defensive player in this draft. They put him in there with Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Bobby Okereke. That's going to be that's a hell of a defensive line. Then they go in the second round, or in the first round, they trade up to get into the first round again, and they draft Jackson Dart. Great quarterback name. Then what do they do in the third round? They go and they get Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle out of Toledo, helping out that defensive line. They bring in Cam Skattebo. I'm not big on Cam Skattebo. I'm not too sure why they would spend a 4th-round pick on him, but whatever. I'm just some dude. Ray Jackson saying, hot take, I think Washington may take their division. Man, that would be wild. There's a part of me that thinks that it can happen too, but I'm looking at that schedule. That's a tough schedule, man. That really is a tough schedule. They bring in Marcus Membo out of Purdue, a guard to help out the offensive line. That's been their biggest issue, was their offensive line. They've got a great defensive line, a great defensive front line. They help out the secondary because they were getting picked apart. Their biggest issue is going to be that offensive line and whoever's at quarterback. They're not going to have time to throw. Like, I like Neighbors and stuff. I just feel like they don't have a good enough offensive line to really help them out. We're going to look at the New York Giants schedule right now. Bringing that up, waiting, buffering. There we go. Do that. In the regular season, they take on the Washington Commanders. Loss. Dallas Cowboys. Loss. Kansas City Chiefs, loss. Los Angeles Chargers, loss. They are staring 0-4 down the barrel right now. New Orleans Saints, I feel like they can get a win against New Orleans Saints, so we'll call them 1-5. Philadelphia Eagles, loss. 1-5 on the season right now. Denver Broncos, loss. 1-6. Philadelphia Eagles, 1-7. San Francisco 49ers, maybe you get a win there. It's at MetLife. I'm not big on the 49ers. I know a lot of people are. I'm still not big on the 49ers. We'll call that a win. So you're 2-7 on the season. Chicago Bears, that's going to be a loss, 2-8. Green Bay Packers, 2-9. Detroit Lions, 2-10. New England Patriots, 2-11. You get the bye week. Thank God you can't lose that one. Washington Commanders, 2-13. Minnesota Vikings, 2-14. You beat the Las Vegas Raiders. You're 3-14. You lose to the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, 3-14 on the season. I can't say. maybe again. Maybe the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then. Maybe somewhere they can get something. Shout out to Edouard Nails saying, yo, good morning. Don't hate on my boys. LOL, JK, I just got here. We're getting to the Dallas Cowboys. We're almost there. Man. Best case scenario, I think we just gave it to them. They win 3 games. Maybe they get 4. Maybe the sun shines on a dog's ass. They get 4 games here. But I don't see it happening, guys. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm embracing the suck. It does not look like it's going to be a great season for the New York Giants. Best case scenario, 4 wins. Worst case scenario, I can see this team losing every game. I don't think I've said that so far throughout the entirety of doing these breakdowns. maybe they win a game. Like worst case scenario, they win one game. They beat the Raiders or somebody like that. But I would not be surprised if I see this team be the first 0-17 team. They are absolute dog shit. I don't say that in jest. They are absolute dog shit. I would love for someone to be like, nah, I feel like the Giants can win the division. If you're still with me, I want to know what your thoughts are here on the Giants going to possible. I've got them at 3-14 on the season. 3-14 on the season. Man, the Giants are going to be bad. Sorry, Giants fan, if you're out there. Looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, they lost a lot. They lost Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, Mekhi Becton, Isaiah Rodgers, all these guys. All 5 of those guys. Huge for the Philadelphia Eagles. Tommy Canazza saying that he thinks they win between 5 and 7 games. I think you're drunk. We got to get you drug tested, my guy. The Philadelphia Eagles lose a bunch on defense, and that was their calling card last year, was on defense. They lose Kenneth Gainwell. Maybe that's not so much, especially now that they have Saquon Barkley. So who do they bring in? Guys, they just spent money on depth. They didn't spend money on anybody. Everyone they brought in, a 1-year deal, $3 million or less. Aziz Ojulari. Wow, I got to get these names right. Joshua Use. Adoree Jackson. None of these guys. I know you're talking about the Giants, Tommy. I think you're drunk. I can't find a way that they win 5 games, not through that schedule. Maybe they split with Washington, but I can't see it. I really can't see it. I've got them 3-14 on the season. Maybe they win 4 games. I think 4 games is going to be the peak for them. Maybe Russ and Jameis got some magic left in them. Maybe that's what it is. The Philadelphia Eagles don't spend much. They lose a lot. They don't spend much in the in free agency. They just bring in depth guys. So what do they do in the draft? You won the Super Bowl. Can you say a team that won the Super Bowl has a whole lot of holes? No, you cannot. But they lost a lot on the defensive line, which once again was their calling card. So what do? They go out and they get Jahad Campbell, a linebacker out of Alabama. They get Andrew McUba, a safety out of Texas. They get Ty Robinson helping out that defensive line. Mac Williams, a cornerback. Samael Mondon, a linebacker out of Georgia. Help out the offensive line getting Drew Kendall, a center out of Boston College. It's just for depth. They get Kyle McCord, a quarterback out of Syracuse. Once again, just depth. Miles Hinton, an offensive tackle out of Michigan. Cameron Williams, a tackle out of Texas. All this is depth. Antoine Powell Rayland, an edge rusher out of Virginia Tech. Depth. I like what they did helping out their defense. I think Jahad Campbell's going to help them out a lot. But let's see. Let's go to the Philadelphia Eagles schedule here. First game of the season at the Dallas Cowboys. I like the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to get this win. I think they're more than likely going to split. So we'll say the Dallas Cowboys get themselves a win in the first game of the season. I might be drunk. You don't know what's in my coffee mug. I might be drunk, but we're going with the Dallas Cowboys here. The Kansas City Chiefs, will say that the Philadelphia Eagles can beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They've shown it already in the biggest game possible. That game to me should have been the first game of the season. The Cowboys should have been the second game of the season, but I'll take the Cowboys game. They're 1-1 so far. The Rams, that's going to be a tough team, but we'll say they squeak it out here 2-1. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 3-1. Denver Broncos, 3-4-1. I want to call that 4-2 or 3-2, but we'll call it 4-1. Ray at Ray Work Productions at Locally Sourced 915. Don't forget to go check him out. I did an interview with him a couple weeks ago. That's out there. All the great stuff that Ray's doing with locally sourced EP. Go check him out. Saying the Chiefs are taking that game. Eagles get a win against the Giants. A win against Minnesota. Another win against the Giants. They finally get their bye week. I feel like they can lose against the Green Bay Packers. I could feel like they can lose against the Detroit Lions. Split with the Cowboys. We'll call that a win. Chicago Bears. We'll call that a win. The Chargers. I like the Chargers, man. But we'll say Philly wins that game. They beat the Raiders. They beat Washington. They lose to Buffalo. They beat Washington. Tommy's saying he agrees with Ray. Throwing all the tomatoes at the Philadelphia Eagles. So I got Philadelphia 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got the Eagles with 12 wins. Pacing the division, I can see the Eagles going 12-5. 13-4, I don't think they can do. I think best case scenario is going to be them going 12-5. Worst case scenario, they win 10 games. Maybe they drop, a game to the Cowboys, something like that, right? Like I can see that team going 12-5, 10-7, somewhere in between there, maybe 11-6. I think 11-6 would be worst case scenario for them. Ray saying the Eagles make the playoffs and lose in the first round. Wow. Zero faith in the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. Okay. So now let's look at the Dallas Cowboys. What do we have with the Dallas Cowboys? Who'd they lose? They lose DeMarcus Lawrence. They lose Jordan Lewis, Brandon Cooks, Chauncey Golston. And then they lose depth with Chema Aduga, Cooper Rush, Rico Dowdle, Trey Lance, Carlos Watkins. They didn't really lose. Like, they lost guys, but they didn't lose guys, right? Like it's a weird look for the Dallas Cowboys. It really is, for me at least. Like it's weird to say what they did, what they didn't do. The Jordan Lewis loss, I agree with you. That one does kind of worry me a little bit, as Tommy Cananza says here. But they help out that defensive line. They bring in Dante Fowler. They help out that offensive line, bringing in Robert Jones. They bring in a running back, Javonte Williams. Is he better? Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence not really available for the Dallas Cowboys. So that one, it sounds like a huge loss, but it wasn't really a huge loss. I think the Jordan Lewis one is probably the bigger one. They bring in Javonte Williams, a running back, help out with that Rico Dowdle loss. Solomon Thomas to help out along the defensive line. Peyton Turner to help out along the defensive line. They re-sign our guy, Trent Sieg. They bring in Miles Sanders. Again, running back depth. So they do a few things like the Cowboys do. Help out the offensive line, help out the defensive line. What did they do during the draft? And I really liked the Cowboys draft. It took me a while to get there, but I really liked what the Cowboys did in the draft. With the 12th overall pick, they took Tyler Booker, a guard out of Alabama. And if you don't remember him, he said at the draft, his favorite part about playing football is making other people hate playing football. I love that. You think you're going to have a big day and then you go up against me. Love that mindset. Tyler Booker, great draft pick for the Dallas Cowboys. In the second round, number 44, they take Donovan Ezekaru, a defensive end, helping out, getting that rush, getting that defensive line. Rush, going after that rush. It's what they do. They bring in Shavon Revel Jr., a cornerback. They bring in Jaden Blue, a fast running back out of Texas, so maybe he's going to be the guy that can take the top off of the defense. Shamar James, a linebacker out of Florida. Ajani Cornelius, an offensive lineman, once again getting depth along the offensive line. I like what the Cowboys did during their draft. But it wasn't just the draft, right, that the Cowboys had a lot of success in. They get Kenneth Murray. They trade for Kenneth Murray, help out the linebacking core. They bring in Joe Milton, backup quarterback. We lost a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush. They bring in Joe Milton, great, to me at least, backup quarterback. They bring in Tyron Smith. They let him retire as a Dallas Cowboy. But the trade they made to bring in George Pickens, to me, makes them a favorite to win in this division. Helps out that offense, right? So we got the Philadelphia Eagles win. New York Giants win. Chicago Bears win. Green Bay Packers win. New York Jets win. Carolina Panthers win. Washington Commanders win. Denver Broncos win. Arizona Cardinals win. Las Vegas Raiders, that's a win. Philadelphia Eagles slap them around one more time. That's a win. The Kansas City Chiefs, who cares about the Kansas City Chiefs? They're washed. Win. Detroit Lions, win for the Dallas Cowboys. Minnesota Vikings, we're calling that a win. The Los Angeles Chargers, who? A win for the Dallas Cowboys. The Washington Commanders, that's a win. And the New York Giants, that's a win for the Dallas Cowboys. You heard it here first. The Dallas Cowboys going 17-0, baby. That's what's happening this season. Let's go, Dallas Cowboys. In reality, I have this team also winning anywhere between 10 to 12 games. I think it's going to be right between them so much, between them and the Philadelphia Eagles. But 17-0, baby. Woo! Reality, 12-5. That's where I think the Cowboys are going to wind up being. I think they have a tough schedule after Thanksgiving, but leading up to Thanksgiving is such a weak schedule for the Dallas Cowboys. Such a weak schedule for them. They should feast on those teams. Feast on those teams at the beginning of the schedule. Tommy Canazza saying the Cowboys have had the best offseason. I'd give them a slight edge over Washington, saying, let's go. Augustine saying, I've never seen so much delusion ever in my life. This is coming from a guy who thinks that women thinks he's attractive. And Tommy Canazza saying, we're going 17-0, baby. There might be a little bit of delusion. Again, you don't know what's in my coffee mug. It's just really good and it burns a little bit. Phrasing? I feel like that's one that deserves phrasing. I feel like that is one that deserves phrasing. All right, everybody. I want to thank you so much for being a part of today's show. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be a Wednesday. Let's see what happens in the world of sports. We have gone through all of the divisions now. Now we might start actually breaking down who the best players at each position are. Stay tuned for all that. Once again, everyone, thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow.